Shalom Aleichem. When Am Yisrael goes to a war, there's open pesukim in the Torah, in Parashat Shoftim, how Am Yisrael should feel, what they should do, how they should conduct themselves. Let's read those pesukim. It's very enlightening. It gives you also a chizuk in Emunah and Bitachon. It says in the pasuk, Ki tetzeh lemilchama loivecha. If when you go out to a battle against your enemy, v'raita sus v'rechev am rav mimcha, which means you'll see a lot of people and you see a horse and a chariot. Now the Torah says over here horse, one chariot. Why is that? Says Rashi over here because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is really the one fighting the war. It's not that Am Yisrael are fighting the war. We are only doing the ishtadlut. Who's really fighting the war? It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. And therefore, all those things that you see over there in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's considered as one. Sus is considered, even if they have thousands, it's as good as one because HaKadosh Baruch Hu can eliminate them just like he can eliminate one. All of them are considered in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu as nothing. Sus v'rechev, says Rashi, be'enai chashuvim kulam kesus echad. They're all considered one in my eyes. V'chen hu omer v'ikita et midyan ki ish echad. They are considered all like one. And therefore, when you see Am Rav Mimecha, says Rashi, be'enecha hu rav, aval be'enai eno rav. If you see a lot of people marching in the streets all over the world, thousands upon thousands, and then hundreds of thousands, they are considered nothings in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Eliminates everything in an instant. Ki tetzeh lemilchama loivecha v'reita sus v'rechev am rav mimecha. It's only in your eyes that there's a lot, not in my eyes. Lo tira mehem. Do not be afraid of them. Do not fear them. Ki Adonai Elohecha imach hamalcha me'eretz Mitzrayim. It's Hashem who's with you, and therefore you have nothing to worry about at all. And therefore, what it says over here is that once you get close to fighting that war, you should know, Ki Adonai Elohechem holech imachem lilachem lachem im oivechem lo'shia etchem. Hashem is with you. He's walking with you. He's marching with you, and He's fighting your battle. And it says over here that for Hashem is the one who goes with you to fight for you the enemies, to save you. What is this? Is this a promise? Is this something that the Torah tells us that Hashem is going to fight the war for us? Or this is the mindset that a person should have when it says over here, do not be afraid. Al tiru, al tachpezu, al yirach levavchem. All those things, are those a command that we should not do that, although it could be that we might lose a battle, chas v'shalom? Or is this a promise that we will win the battle? That's a machloket rishonim, Ramban and the Rambam. According to the Ramban, it is a promise that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to fight the war for us and we're going to be victorious. This is also how the Rabbeinu Yonah says in the third perek of Sha'arei Teshuvah. It says in Siman Lamed Bet, Ki tetzeh lemilchama v'reita sus v'rechev am rav mimcha lo tira mehem. Even though you see a lot of them, do not be afraid. Huzarnu bazeh. The Torah commends us over here. She'im yireh adam ki tzara krova. If you see that the war is coming close, and it could be a tzara, could be a time of anguish, of time of crisis. Tiyeh yeshuat Hashem bilvavo v'iftach alea. Have trust, have bitachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, כעניין שנאמר, אך קרוב לרעב ישעו. וכן כתוב, מי את ותראי מאנוש ימות. Which means, do not be afraid of them, because Hashem is going to fight our battle. This is also, as I said, the Ramban understanding. But the Rambam says it's not necessarily a promise, but it's a command. When you go to a war, go to fight that war, and do not be afraid of them. Why? Because it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu who's fighting the battle. Not necessarily a promise that we will be victorious in the war, because there were wars in the past that Am Yisrael did not win, and there was a lot of loss for our soldiers, lo alenu. But you should know that it's Hashem who's fighting the war, and therefore you should not be afraid of them. This is what I mentioned in other shiurim, that in the beginning of Masechet Avodah Zarah, when Hashem judges the world and each nation comes in front of Hashem to be judged, Hashem asked the Iranians, the Persians, what did you do throughout your history? And they said, we fought battles. Hashem joked, Hashem made fun of them. and said to them, you fought the battles? I fought all battles. You were the one fighting the battles. We need to realize that Hashem is at the battle war, at the battleground, and He's the one that's fighting the battle. And therefore, it says over here that we should not be afraid of Him. And that is how the Stipler in Birkat Peret says. He says that we need to realize that what the Torah commands us over here is that we should not be afraid of them, because it doesn't make a difference what arm they have, how many people they have fighting, and everything else, because it's all up to Hashem, and Hashem is there to protect us. And that's why the Torah says over here in those Pesukim, ואמר להם, שמע ישראל אתם קרבים היום למלחמה על אויביכם, אל ירח לבבכם, אל תראו ואל תחבשו ואל תרצו מפניהם. Do not be afraid of them, do not let your heart be faint, fear not, and so on and so forth. But Rashi enlightens us over here that they also use a psychological war against us, which they are very well at. And what do? Rashi says over here that what the Pasuk mentions, 4 different reassurances, really come to reassure us from their 4 different psychological wars that they conduct against us. What it says over here is, let not your heart faint. That's in response of the horses making the noise with the horses and sharpening of the enemy's sword. So that's one way of trying to make us afraid, is by making a lot of noise and commotion. Secondly, it says, fear not. That's in reaction to the clashing of the shields and the noise of their boots. Again, with a lot of noise, making a lot of noise effect, we should fear. And therefore the Torah says, fear not, don't worry about it. It's all psychological war. Just close your ears, don't pay attention to it. And then it says, nor be alarmed. That's from the sounds of the trumpets, and do not be terrified in the face of the enemy's shouts. Which means they use all kind of different means to win the battle, not necessarily by taking arms against us, but also much of the fear effect in order to make us scared, and then it's much easier to win the war. Today they do the same thing with videos, scary effects, a lot of threats. We're not afraid of all that. Why not? Because it's Hashem who's in the battlefield that's fighting the war. This is the message of the parasha, in the parasha of going to a war, going to fight a battle in Parashat Shoftim.